Okay. All right. Let me bring the topics to a little bit heavier. So, when I was asked to give this talk, I noticed that in the past I've been talking about happiness. I've been talking about life has been tough. And so let me go one step further. Let's talk about death. So therefore, I came up with this topic because of a reason, and I'll tell you why. So the topic is, what will be inscribed on the gravestone? So what I want to say, no? Okay, I'll just use the, it's okay, I'll just use this one. All right? So, whoop. All right, so I would say what will be inscribed on the gravestone is really beyond your control because you're game over. Somebody else determines what it is. So how come I came up with this topic? I want to bring to you this story, which came out a weekend ago on the date when I was asked about giving this talk. I was reading New York Times, which is on a Sunday review. It's talking about this guy, which is called Harris Walford. I don't know him. But then he wrote this review, which I find is really touching. He was a 90-year-old man, and he was talking about his relationship with his wife for 50 years. And his wife died when he was 70. And afterwards, he met some guy, and then he's going to get married last Saturday. So in the second marriage, he's marrying a man. So in US, it's possible. The Supreme Court already approved it. So what was he doing? So basically, he did a lot of good things because he was a senator in the state of Pennsylvania. And he was the advisor on civil rights for John F. Kennedy, if you know who he is. And he's also the advisor for Obama. So therefore, what happened is that, in fact, he was doing a lot of good things. And he also, as an advisor for Martin Luther King. Interesting. A few days later, I came across another article, which is talking about this guy, Reverend Samuel Billy Kyles. Do I know him? Do any of you know him? Probably no. Again, I was reading the New York Times, and I have a practice. I'll tell you what it is. So I read about this guy, and he was dead. And it turns out that I read into his story, and he was, on the day when Martin Luther King was killed, he was having a meeting with him, and they finished the meeting getting on to another event. And they came out of the hotel, and just when they went out, there was a shot on Martin Luther King. So he saw it. He was right there. So, and then he would say, well, over the years, God revealed to me why I was there. Because crucifixion have to have witnesses. And so he was there. And he was a guy who was recognized like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. These are civil rights pioneers. And he was active in Memphis, Tennessee, as the major person in the southern part of the US driving civil rights. Now, interesting. I don't know him, but when I read about him, they simply say that he was a civil rights pioneer. So let me tell you what defines that. How come I don't know him, but I read about him? I think that's the only thing they say. That's a civil rights pioneer. And they were working very hard on that. So how do we define a man? So I told you that I have a bad habit. I like to read obituary. So every time when somebody's dead, I like to read it and say actually why they are dead and then what kind of things they've done. So let me name you a few individuals. Jerry Adelman, how many of you know him? No, he was a Nobel Prize winner. He discovered how antibodies work and what the structure is. He defined how cells communicate with each other and attach to each other. If you ask a biologist, everybody would say, wow, that's how he was known for. But then, by the time near the death, he also worked on this neurodarwinism to look at actually how we develop consciousness. And for him, he sees that as the major contribution in his life. forget about antibody. He said that somebody else is going to work it out, but then I don't think anybody is going to work on this neurodarwinism, looking at how consciousness is being developed. All right, okay, so that's how he defines himself. How about Arthur Comber? How many of you know him? Some of you may know, scientists, if there are biologists here, you should know. He's the person who's working on DNA replication, looking at all the enzymes. So we often call him the father of DNA enzymology. So he tells us actually how DNA replicate. 50 years of work. That's how he's remembered. And he also worked on a topic which is polyphosphate. You don't even know actually what polyphosphate is, right? But then you remember that he got the Nobel Prize because he worked on how DNA replicate. Now, so it's 50 years of work. You remember only one thing. He worked on DNA replication. How about James Crow? Probably even fewer people know about that because I studied genetics, so I know him. He was a population geneticist. But by the time when he died, he was claimed as he is immortalized in the history as a scholar, citizen, friend, who explained everything with clarity. So that's how he was remembered. So what I was asking is the following. Any single one, how are they remembered? And these two persons you will remember. Richard Nixon. How do you remember him? He ended the Vietnam War. He initiated contact with China. And he has a Watergate scandal. And he has the famous word saying that, I am not a crook. We all remember him. How about Mao, Chairman Mao? How do we remember him? Well, he led the Long March, founded the People's Republic of China. He initiated the Great Leap Forward. And people also remember that he initiated the Cultural Revolution. And many of our colleagues suffered in that period. Okay, great man. So I was asking that question. What do you remember about these people? Famous scientists, politicians, iconic figure. We remember because of their deed, because of their acts, their words, which defines who they are and what kind of contribution they made as a legacy to mankind. That's what we remember them. Interestingly, on the other day, I was talking to students, and they would ask me about writing a CV. In fact, I looked into it and find that CV, in Latin, the translation is really the course of life. It's basically actually what your life is really about. And my student was saying that, how should I write my CV? What is it about? It's your life. How can I write for you? So what is life? So I want you to think about, stop. You are writing your book of life. What is in your book? In fact, you're all writing your book today. To many people, particularly for our students, they think that CV is how they want to be watched by others. They want to put things there so they can convince people they are doing well. Sometimes I call it a highlight. Euphemistically, it is. But sometimes it is really a disguise. Why? Because it's not all about you. Did you tell them actually what kind of magazine you're reading? Do you tell them actually what kind of bad thing you have done? No, you skip all that. All right? And in fact, the funny thing is that some of you may notice that last week there was a guy called Johannes Haushofer. He published this called CV of Failure. He said that on that CV, he told people that he applied to this school, he was rejected. He applied for this job, he was rejected. He submitted a paper here, there, and they got all rejected. These are the things that he failed to accomplish. But that is part of his life. And we see that that defines the full person. So my question is that how do you want to put something in your book of life? So let me put it this way. Do you really want your book to be watched by others? Or do you want to watch it by yourself? Particularly at the time when you're alone, that you see the book yourself. You believe that is convincingly a book you believe in. So let's do a test. And then we have been doing tests. So assume that this is your last day to live. What is your most precious thing that you want to share? And you ask yourself what it is. So you look back and ask, you may be the guy who's working in the lab, working in a chemistry lab all day long, but then when you're like 90 years old, when you're dying, you look in the mirror, look at your younger stage, what have you done? So I would like to propose a few things for you to think about. As we get older, life is not really about acquiring information skill. our students are focusing on that. It's not about materialistic possession. We can talk about money. Yes, money is important, but how much do you need? Not much. It's not about more the merrier. In fact, the more probably you have more trouble. It's about not to burn energy on anxiety. Think about it. A lot of you having this stress and tension, you're burning your energy on anxiety, and learned of self-pity and resentment is really the most toxic drug. In fact, we have. A lot of us are doing that. So the lesson to take is learn to let go. Forget about those things. Those are not important. More. When we get older, we become wiser, I guess. Important lesson to learn about that. Most people, when you interact with them, they are neither for you nor against you. In fact, they're simply thinking about themselves. All right? So be compassionate. Be compassionate means that actually try to understand why they're thinking about it. And you know that no matter how hard you try, you can't please everybody. And somebody out there, they would hate you. And okay, so that's really disgusting, right? Sometimes it may be something very troubling at first, but then if you think about that, well, somebody's going to hate you. So if you hate me, so what? I'm expecting it. So therefore, it's quite relaxing. You don't worry about it anymore. Isn't it supposed to be like that? Because the whole world is full of difference, and we embrace that. So take it easy. When somebody disagrees with you, they hate you, that's okay, because they're really human beings. All right? So that's what it is. So I told you that I've been talking about happiness. Maybe it's time for me to talk about something else, about what life is really about. It's about the meaning of life. Happiness is something that we enjoy at present. But meaning is more than that. Meaning is talking about how you dedicate yourself to the future. Important. The future. Look at the future. Happiness is about receiving. You want to enjoy that moment. But think about that. What meaning is? Meaningfulness is really about giving. You feel happy, that's when you're giving. And happiness is about a nice experience. But most important of all, meaning gives you a deeper sense of satisfaction and content. And that's what we are really looking for our whole life. So I call that meaning is really a non-pharmacological dose of endorphin and oxytocin. And it is put on a transdermal patch, that patch on your skin. And you don't need to replace it. It just from time to time, it keeps on releasing. And so you always feel happy and feel the content and satisfaction. Look for that. And that's important. So I hope that you'll learn from that. Is meaning something that you build into your life. You are building it in your life. You build on it because of the past, which you can't change. Right? It is there. You learn about affection and loyalty. And that's something you can acquire. You can develop to have. But also, you need to take the experience with other humankind. They just pass it on to you when you are not expecting it. Accept it as it is. Take it like that. So when is that defining moment which is important for you? And I call that now. Because you're really in control. Take the moment, experience, and take it all in and find the meaning. That's the most important part of it. Almost give it away. So, the final word. The world loves talents. We love to be successful. But remember, the whole world values character. Ontogenies of a business school. An important part of it is the character of individual, which is defined by each person, what meaning they find in their life. So at the end, I need to help myself to inscribe my gravestone. Here it is. I may be dying. This is my last lecture to you. The song is over. The game is also over. But I hope that the melody will linger on. Thanks.